Okay, I think we'll probably have a few more people joining us here in the next few minutes, but we'll go ahead and get started with our webinar today since it's 2 p.m. and this is Tuesdays at 2. So welcome everybody to SCORE Southwest Missouri's webinar series Tuesday at 2. This is Who is Your Target Market? And we have our presenter, Mackenzie Scherer today. And I'll introduce Mackenzie in just a moment. Before I do that, I am going to just give you a quick intro to SCORE. So let's get started with that. This webinar is presented in partnership with the Springfield Greene County Library. The library offers resources for your business, including market and consumer research databases such as reference solutions, meeting and co-working spaces, a makerspace with a laser engraver, vinyl cutter, heat press, and more. And of course, books, audiobooks, newspapers, and magazines in print and digital formats, and workshops just like this one, and events for businesses and entrepreneurs. So you can find out all about the library's business resources at thelibrary.org/business. And let's talk about SCORE. So SCORE is a nationwide nonprofit that is there for you for the life of your business. We have mentoring and resources to support you from idea to exit. There are 3 ways that SCORE helps small businesses, maybe more ways than 3, but 3 we're going to talk about today. One of those is providing free business advice and mentoring. So you can, if you are in business, you can get yourself, or starting a business, get yourself a SCORE mentor. We also offer low or no cost business training, just like the webinar you're attending today. We offer these webinars every 2nd and 4th Tuesday. We also have in-person workshops at the library center. And there are lots of on-demand courses on the SCORE website at score.org. And then if you have not been to the SCORE website, you will find lots and lots of free business templates and resources on that website that you can use to help you start or grow your business. Here are a few upcoming workshops from Southwest Missouri SCORE. Our next one is Accessibility in Business, Common Practices That Harm Your Customer Service with Ariana Russell. That is Tuesday, May 10th at 2 p.m. That's a virtual workshop. And then we have another virtual workshop coming up at the end of May called Get Psyched for UX, Make Your Website Customer Centric. That is with Teresa Smith, who's the Senior Manager of Optimization at Search Discovery. And that is on the 24th at 2 p.m. And then there's one really great workshop we have coming up here on Saturday, May 14th. So this is sort of our premier workshop series. So if you are in the early stages of starting your business, you definitely want to take advantage of this one. We don't charge for it, but it's a 5-part series. This year, we are doing it all in one day, sort of like a business boot camp on May 14th, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. at the Schweitzer Brentwood Library in Springfield. SCORE will provide lunch and some snacks. There'll be a little bit of opportunity for networking there. There's no virtual option for this one, and space is limited. I checked this morning, there are a few spaces left. So if this would be of benefit to your business, you can see our content there: startup basics, business concept, marketing plan, financial projections, and funding sources, kind of everything you need to know to start a business. And we have local presenters that bring this SCORE kind of certified content to life. It's a really great experience. You can sign up for that at swmissouri.score.org if you're interested. And everything SCORE does is made possible through the effort of our volunteers nationwide. We have over 10,000 volunteers serving clients in over 1,500 communities. If you are interested in volunteering with SCORE, it's a great way to get connected in the small business and entrepreneurship community here in Southwest Missouri. And it's fun. So you can go to score.org/volunteer to fill out the volunteer application. You can find all of the info about our chapter, including those resources, mentor request, workshop information, all of that at swmissouri.score.org. All right, let's move on to our presentation. So I'd like to introduce our presenter today. Our presenter is Mackenzie Scherer, who owns BrokeSite website design, as well as Mackenzie Scherer LLC, in which she provides consulting services to small businesses and nonprofits. With over 10 years of experience, she teaches technology to business in a way that is easy to understand. She also serves as the ambassador and marketing chair, webmaster, E3 marketing chair, and she is a mentor for Southwest Missouri SCORE. Welcome, Mackenzie.
Hey, it's good to be here today. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and we'll get started. All right, so we're going to talk about finding your target market today. And we're going to start with just the basics. So what is a target market? So most people think that anyone that can buy their product is going to be who their target market is. But your target market isn't who can buy your product, it is who is most likely to actually buy your product. So while everyone can purchase a phone case, not everyone is going to like the same type of phone case. So one of the first parts of actually finding your target market is looking at the demographics. So these are going to be statistical facts about your audience. So this is going to be, what age group are you trying to market to? What gender? What is their education level? It can even go as in depth as how much they make a year. So we're going to take a couple looks at some of the places where you can find this information, and I'm going to hop over to some of these sites and kind of give you a quick view of what it looks like when you're looking at this data. So one of the best locations to get demographic data is from census.gov. So this is basically all of the census data that the government collects. You can actually look through, and here's just a brief look at some of the things that you can actually find on there. So if we go to census.gov, and when you go browse by topic, you can even look at business and economy. You can look at geography, age and sex, education level. So there's a lot of really good information where you can get some basic statistics. So if you just go to age and sex, so it's got information like stories about older Americans. So this is community survey estimating about how many people were over the age of 65. So if you're looking at a product where you're targeting people over the age of 65, this would be a super helpful story to look to see who you can market to with that. Another great place is the US Bureau of Labor Statistics. So a lot of this comes to employment and unemployment data, and something called Consumer Price Index, along with Producer Price Index. So these come in handy when you're kind of looking to see what to price your product at and see who is going to purchase at that price point. So if you go to the US Bureau of Labor Statistics, this is kind of what it's going to look like. There is subjects. So here is that consumer price index we talked about, employment costs, earnings by industry. So if you're trying to target a specific industry, you can look at some of the earning data in that industry to really see, what can people in that industry afford? What is a good price point for your product? So when you're looking at your target market, it's not only marketing data that you can get, but it can also help you actually price your product. Wage data by occupation. So this is actually a pretty cool little bit of information. I kind of geek out about nerdy information, and this is one of them. But this can actually give you some great information about anytime you're trying to target a specific industry. So you can look at data by state, you can look at national data, you can look specifically in metropolitan or non-metropolitan areas. So you can really get specific when you're actually trying to find this data. And the more specific and more information you know about the industry or the group that you're trying to target, the better you're actually going to be able to market to them. And then this one is great if you are in the insurance or health industry. What this is the National Center for Health Statistics. and it's going to contain data on like births, deaths, life expectancy, health reports, and you can actually search by different keywords on here. So if you're looking at needing to know the death rates and kind of when people pass away, to look at insurance premiums. If you're trying to market insurance premiums, that's going to kind of give you a age range of, where people are probably going to purchase life insurance. Same thing with data on births. If you are selling child products, so onesies or baby toys, anything like that, knowing birth data can help you figure out who to target and who is what age people are actually having children. Now, your best friend and your worst enemy is your competitor. So looking at what your competitor already does and who they market to is going to give you a great idea about where to start with your product. You're going to want to look at who these people like and what pages that they follow, because this is going to give you good information about who they see as influencers or who they got information from. So that's somebody else that you can look into as a competitor. There's really cool programs like Society.io, which will actually let you pull up these different competitor social media accounts and do some analysis of them. So you can kind of see what their best posts are, what engagement they're getting, what are some of their worst posts. And it pulls super helpful information data to actually understand how they're marketing, what's working and what's not. Now, a little bit more information that you're going to want to get when you're doing this target market competitor research. You're going to want to make sure to keep the links to their accounts or usernames, how many followers they have. You're going to want to link to the most popular post that they have posted. You're going to want to link to the worst performing post. You're going to want to pay attention to what type of tone they're using. So are they using a very professional wording for everything? Or is it very fun and lively? You're also going to want to pay attention to how often that they post, as well as the engagement rate. And what the engagement rate is when people like it, when they share it, when they make one of the emojis that you see on Facebook, that is engagement. This is when somebody interacts with that post. So take note of if it's positive or if it's negative, and kind of pay attention to why people react poorly to that post and why people react positively to that post. Because all of this information is going to be used down the road to keep track and tweak your target market as you go along. That way you can really get the most out of your marketing dollars. So why are demographics helpful? So it's like, okay, cool. I got their age, I got their gender, I got this. Now what do I do with it? So here's an example of what you can do. If you're opening a storefront and you have a particular product, you're going to want to make sure that the people in that area where you open that storefront are going to be the people who are looking to purchase your product. So if you're opening a baby store, for example, you're going to want to open that in an area with a lot of younger couples who have very small children, correct? So if you look at the demographics of a neighborhood and where you're looking at putting your store, it's all people, 50 plus, you're probably not going to have a good place to put your store. So demographics can be helpful to know where to have physical locations. And it also helps on the income side, because if you're selling high-end products, you don't want to be in a low income area. The next part of target market is something called psychographics. So this is really looking at the psychological factors as to why someone is receptive to your marketing. So this is a great resource, and it's available through the Springfield Greene County Library. And so what this allows you to look at is information about consumer lifestyles and a lot of other information. So you can go into lifestyle categories and look at people, if you're trying to market to people who are interested in collectibles. You can click collectibles, view results. And here's information about people who are interested in it. So this is really powerful to get a good idea about what people are interested in. And when you get into surveys, this can be helpful to see if people would be interested to work with your surveys and even see who to look at on social media. But knowing what people want to do with their spare time is really helpful if you are in, a hobby industry like water sports or hockey or something like that. Market surveys. Surveys are exceptionally important to make sure that you are marketing to the correct people. So SurveyMonkey's a great option that allows you to create surveys to send out to email lists you have. Or you can even do links to social media groups and ask people specific questions. All of this is going to be great feedback of, okay, I think this is who my target market is. All right, this Facebook group, most people are in that target market that I think. So just post a question about, hey, would you be interested in something like this? And just see what that feedback is. Because if a lot of people are not interested, then you really need to go back and start rethinking who you're trying to sell to. So here's some questions that would be super helpful in a survey. So which activity do you do most often when you have free time? This lets you know what people have for hobbies. So if someone is interested in kayaking, there's a good chance that they're interested in scuba diving or fishing or some other water sport activity that might be in what you're trying to sell with your product. What was the last big ticket item you bought? This is going to give you a good idea of what price point consumers are comfortable purchasing at. So if their last big ticket item was a SUV, then they're probably more willing to spend money than someone whose last big ticket item was, something that was around $100 or $200. Do you pay more attention to the price or quality of the items you buy? So if people are caring more about the quality, then they're willing to pay more. If people are more concerned about the price, then, if you have a cheaper built item, then that market would be okay to target with it. How often do you give to charity? What this lets you know is, can you use social good as a marketing tactic with this audience? So can you actually say, hey, for every 5 items purchased, we donate 2, or 10% of every purchase goes to this charity. So that way you have a good idea of what types of charities your audience wants to give to, because if you're supporting that type of charity, they're more likely to purchase a product from you. Which physical activities do you take part in? So this comes back to if you're trying to sell sporting good equipment and somebody's like, the most physical I get is walking to the bathroom, they're probably not going to purchase your products. Which social media platforms do you use and how frequently? This is what's going to let you know where your audience is at. So if all of them are using Facebook or all of them are using LinkedIn, then you know that that's where you really need to spend marketing dollars. And do you spend more money on yourself or on family and friends? If you are in a gift industry, you're going to want to target people who are more likely to purchase for family and friends. That way you really know who to market to. Social media groups. Social media groups are going to be your best friend when you're trying to figure out who's interested in your product. So you can see what types of trends are being posted on places like Reddit, and see what types of problems people are looking for. Because if a lot of people are looking for the same type of problem for a solution to it, and your product is that solution, then you know that that's a good place to market as well. So this is one of my favorite tools for following specific topics. And we're going to hop into that real quick. So Google Trends is a platform through Google that you can search different keywords and actually look at the trends of them. So we're going to type in water sports. So when you search water sports, you can change the location. So if you are marketing in the United States, you can select the United States. Or if you want to market in Australia, you can switch the data to Australia. It's also going to let you show past 5 years, 90 days, 30 days, a week. So you have these different time periods to really see if it's something that's kind of a fad or if it's something that has a consistent trend to it. All categories. So if your search term, you want to only search for things that are in autos or vehicles, or search for hobbies and leisure. So only water sports that are in the hobbies and leisure. So that'll give you a little bit more specific search. And then you can search by images. You can search by news, shopping, or even YouTube videos. So you can start looking at people with the YouTube search, start looking at what those trends are if you're trying to market on YouTube. Another cool thing is interest by subregion. So it'll actually break it down to states in the United States. Let me switch to the United States. So this will actually break down what the searches are for the different states. So if you're trying to market in Missouri, okay, well, it's kind of lower interest compared to Florida and to Idaho, where there's a lot of interest in this search term. So that's going to give you a good geographic idea of where to market to. And then related topics is something helpful as well, because it's telling you these specific topics that are related to it. So water trampoline, that could be another product that you're selling if you are selling water sports products. Snorkeling, that's another one as well. So these are related searches. So these are things that people who search for water sports are also looking for. So water sports near me, Lake Las Vegas water sports, what is water sports? So by looking at this, you can even tell, hey, this would be a really good post or a really good blog topic because people are looking at it. So it gives you some good content ideas, and it lets you know other products and people that you can market to, and give you a really good geographic region of where to market to as well. So the next part is the location of the audience, and this is where they're located. So this is not just what geographic location, like we just talked about on Google Trends, but it's also what platforms they're on, or are they at trade shows? Are they at different groups? So the location of your audience will change where and how your product can be sold. So if you're trying to target people, but your product needs to be demonstrated, then you're going to want to start looking at who is on things like YouTube, who attends trade shows. You're going to want to look at those places to market where your target market will actually be, especially if you need to demonstrate it, then you need to have the ability to demonstrate it. An example of this is perfumes. You want to smell perfumes before you purchase them. So what perfume companies would do is they would take those little sample pages and put them in magazines because they knew people would smell their perfume. And if people like the smell of their perfume, then they would go purchase it. So that's just kind of an example of how people would target their market where they're at and use creative ways to get in front of someone when they knew that they needed to be in front of that audience. And you really need to keep that in mind because sometimes you might need to do a video, sometimes you might need to send samples, but that's really going to help you know how you need to market. The next one is use your demographic column to figure out what platform to use. So if you are looking at women who are in X age range and are business owners. A great place to start looking for what the data is on these different social media platforms. So see who's on them, how much time they spend on them, what types of content they like, is Sprout Social. So we're going to take a quick look at Sprout Social. What they are is basically a huge hub of social media information. And every single year, they do a demographic study on social media. So they will set and break down each of the main platforms into easy to understand statistics of who's on them, how much time they spend on them, as well as what types of content and what to expect when marketing to these groups. So we'll just scroll down to Facebook. So it gives you the number of monthly active users, what the largest age group is. So 31% is age 25 to 34. It's pretty balanced with females to males. And people spend about 33 minutes a day on here. And this is where it's going to tell you the main things that you're going to want to know about actually marketing on these platforms. So user growth has slowed, time spent on Facebook has fallen, ad revenues are climbing, younger consumers are going to TikTok and Snapchat versus Facebook and Instagram. So it also gives you really good ideas of, hey, my target market used to be on Facebook, but it looks like my target market shifted to TikTok and Snapchat. So it gives you really good information of how to use that demographic information. So just as kind of an example, if our demographics, we're looking at females who are 25 to 35 that are business owners, what platform would we use? So if you have this basic demographic, a good way to do this is you're going to go back to Sprout Social. And as business owners, you're going to probably want to start looking at LinkedIn if you're doing business to business. So our age range was 25 to 35. So LinkedIn's age group is now 25 to 34. So our demographics are lining up so far. We were trying to target female business owners. So you look at the gender and it's 48% female. So we're still pretty good on that. And it's strictly business owners pretty much that are on LinkedIn. So it is a great source for business to business marketers. So all of this information, you use your demographics to help you narrow down what social media platform to look at. Another thing is influencers in your industry. So these are people who are going to be on Instagram, or going to be on TikTok or other social media platforms. And you can use websites like BuzzSumo or FollowerWonk to find influencers that are specific to your industry. So influencers are a great place to look to see where your audience is, or even who is part of your audience. Because if you have someone who, we'll go back to our water sports example. If you have someone who is a big wakeboarder and they have a huge following and they're supporting certain products, you can go look at who's following that person if you are in the water sports industry and see, okay, well, it is typically these people at this age range. Okay, they live mostly here. So you can get really good information from influencers to help narrow down who you want to target market. And it cuts out a lot of the work and gives you kind of a starting point for it. So BuzzSumo is mostly for Twitter. So it's looking for Twitter influencers here. And FollowerWonk, I believe, also does quite a bit with Twitter. But so a little bit of what to expect if you actually get in with influencer marketing. When people are getting marketing from influencers, the going rate is typically $100 for every 10,000 followers plus certain extras, because sometimes extras will get thrown in. So that's kind of gives you an idea of if you want to take your product to an influencer just as a test run to see if who they are marketing to is the same market that you're trying to target. That's kind of the price you're looking at for doing that. So something to really keep in mind is you really need to know what your goals are for this. So are you trying to just understand and make sure that this is your target market, or are you actually trying to sell products through this and that's your main goal? Because sometimes this can be pretty expensive to use an influencer just to make sure you know who your market is. But if you've got a lot of dollars to burn, it's a great way to do it. And also know marketing rules. So when you are having someone do a post that's sponsored, they need to identify that this is they're being paid to push this product. And you can actually get in trouble with the FTC for this if they are not showing that, hey, it's sponsored, which is why you'll always see sponsored post or sponsored ad, because that's the disclaimer that's required by the FTC to actually show that someone is paying for them to promote this. So you can't really find your target market and adapt your target market without looking at analytics. And a couple main points that you really need to look at are engagement. So like we talked about earlier, engagement is going to be your likes, your comments, your shares and clicks. And what this really does is it tracks how active your audience is with your content. So if you're posting content and no one's liking it or sharing it, then either A, you're marketing to the wrong people, or B, you're using the wrong type of content. So the post engagement rate is something that you're going to want to look at. And this is the number of engagements divided by impressions. So if 50 people see your post, but only 2 people engaged in it, then that's not a very good engagement rate. So you really need to look at that, because it's more than just people who see your post, because if people aren't interacting with your post, then it doesn't really matter if they see it. Account mentions. So this is where people will be like, hey, at so-and-so. So this lets you know if people are talking about your brand. It's going to let you know what people are saying about your brand. And it's really going to let you know if people are aware of what you do or if they have no clue what you're doing. So it's really good to kind of keep an eye on this. And there's certain social media softwares that you can actually use to keep track of this for you. It'll automatically run through and find it. The other thing you need to look at is awareness. So this is how well your audience actually knows you. You're going to look at impressions. So this is how many times a post shows up in someone's timeline. And then reach, which is the potential unique viewers a post could have. So it's usually your follower count plus accounts that shared the post followers account. So the higher your reach is isn't necessarily better if you don't have people who are interacting with your post or trying to share it or do these other things. So you're going to want to really keep an eye and make sure that people are in fact being engaged with your content and are sharing, liking, and have positive feedback about your content. Because if not, then you really need to look at who you're marketing to and how you're marketing to them. Couple tips. So like I said, competitors are going to be your best research information. If they have a huge follower count, then they've got to be doing something right. Look at what they're doing well, look at what they're doing poorly, and that's going to let you see a great starting point. You might have more than one target market. So each product can potentially have a different target market. Typically, you're going to have a generalized one, but you can get to where you have so many products that different products are going to have different people you market to. I mean, Walmart's a great example. They have a huge range of who they're marketing to. You're going to want to know if your product or service needs to be seen, smelt, touched for purchase. So this goes back to if your product needs to be demonstrated, then you're going to want to be sure to be somewhere where you can share videos or be in person at trade shows. And you're going to want to check local associations for information. because some associations will help you with information. So you have like accountant associations or law associations. So if you're marketing to either of those groups, see who's there, see what people attend these associations, and that's going to give you a decent idea of who you could possibly market to. And that's what I've got.
Okay, thank you, Mackenzie. Great information. Now is a great time to ask questions. If you got them, you can throw your questions in the chat, and Mackenzie would be happy to answer those. While we're waiting for those questions to roll in, Mackenzie, am I remembering right that you started doing kind of target marketing stuff or teaching other businesses how to do that with your business?
Yeah, I created something that's kind of based off of the business model canvas. So it's a super easy little chart where it breaks each section down into its own column, and then allows you to see what types of statistics or things that you need to look for in order to find who your target market is.
Cool. Okay. Just hang on just a minute and see if anyone has got any questions they'd like to ask. We do typically send the video of our workshops out to everyone who's registered for the program. So if you missed anything or you just want to rewatch it because that was a lot of great information, you'll have that in your email here in the next week or so. Okay. I am not seeing any questions coming in, so we will wrap it up a little early today. Okay. Well, thank you, Mackenzie. Always appreciate your expertise. And yep, we'll share the recording, Kim. We'll send that out via email. And don't forget to join us for our next few workshops that we talked about at the top of the hour. You can find all that information at swmissouri.score.org. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next time.